What's up YouTube, Chronos here, and welcome to another PSO2 guide video. So today we're going to talk about skill trees. Now quick disclaimer, this is not going to be a, hey, this is every skill tree in the game, these are all the skills you should be picking and why you should be picking these skills. Skill trees heavily depend on how you're playing a specific class, and even sometimes the meta choice isn't necessarily going to be the best for you because you really don't play that way. So I'm going to be linking a couple of different builds or skill trees in the description. These skill trees are going to be coming over from the Arcs Fleet Discord. So if you're not a part of that Discord, you may want to Google it, check it out. It's got a lot of really great information. I would highly recommend grabbing a hold of that Discord on the side. That way you'll at least have some skill tree information, because skill trees are something that you really don't want to mess up. The thing about skill trees in PSO2 are they're not super easy to reset. Whenever the game does any sort of skill balance changes or anything along those lines, they provide what's called an all skill tree reset ticket. That allows you to reset all of your skill trees, which is kind of a pain in itself because you have to go back in and then set up all your skill trees again. However, it's also the only way to reset your skill trees for free for the most part. Everything else is going to cost you something, and it's not just SEGA. Now, granted, they may change this on the NA servers. I'm not sure, because usually this sort of thing doesn't necessarily pass on for the Western audience itself. However, on JP currently, the only way to reset your skill tree is usually to buy a second skill tree or do what's called a skill tree transfer, where you transfer all the points back and forth to pseudo reset them. I didn't really mess with skill tree transfers, so I don't really know a whole lot about those. I've only ever purchased an extra skill tree and then just made the proper choices whenever I was setting up my skill tree, so I've never really had to worry too much about them. What you'll find out is when they start handing out skill tree resets, they hand out one per character. So a lot of times people will have 3 characters created, but only play one of them. That way, whenever they hand out something per character, they get 3 of those items. So it makes things a little bit easier for them. But we're not going to ramble on too long. I don't want this video to be too long, so let's just jump into skill trees. So of course, there's the class counter attendant from my last video. Whenever you come over to this guy here, you can always either change classes here. Currently, I'm playing a class that has no subclass. I can show you really quick. If I switch over to a class with a subclass, like say Bouncer, I used to play beforehand, I can then pick my subclass, which is Hunter. Bam, Bouncer, Hunter. Now, you can always change your skill tree that you're taking from there. Like I mentioned beforehand, you can have more than one skill tree. So in case you have different weapon setups or different content that you want to do, you can always change your skill tree here. For individual classes, as you can see, I have a couple for certain classes just because of the way I played at the beforehand. But let's switch back to Etoile. You also have sets. Sets basically are preloads or pre-setups for your skills and your classes that you're going to be playing. You can switch between them relatively quickly. I can actually really quick. I usually have a set. I actually just type in /ms1. You guys really can't see that behind my character that's on the screen, but in the chat box, type /ms1 and kind of like a hotkey setup for my character itself. But this actually hasn't been set properly, so I'm gonna fix this really quick. Doing it live. Naming, bam. So now I can just type in my set 1. It gives me all my weapons and my stuff. My set 2 is just a blank. That way I can actually unequip everything super quick and then send it to my storage for my other characters. But that's a whole another situation. Let's jump back into skill tree stuff. So my sets are just presets, essentially. I'll learn now, of course, this is where the whole skill tree add thing and skill tree transfer. Skill tree adds cost AC, skill tree transfers cost SG, which you can get in game for free, but it still costs something. And then of course there's the all skill tree reset that you get with the tickets. Now, if you come over to learn classes or learn skills, you'll have all of your classes listed here with the number of skill trees that you have. You can name the skill trees, of course, individually, but what we're here for is to learn about actually setting up a skill tree. So we're going to jump over to something pretty basic most people have, which is Hunter. So what you'll find when you look at your skill tree itself is you'll have a couple of skills across the top here. These skills specifically won't actually cost you anything. I know it shows level 1 point. You don't have to actually hit up or down on these. These are just level unlocks. Kind of nice. War Attract also is level unlocked. This is a level 85 skill. You can always check to see which of these skills are going to cost you something, usually because you have to actually add an extra point in. It's going to cost you something. But the way skill trees basically work, essentially, are going to be you have to have points put into something to be able to move on to something else. So you'll see that the ones that are lit up are accessible. Anything below that isn't lit up, you'll see that it has a couple of tick marks here. this shows you how much of the skill that is before you need before you can actually put points into this. So if I wanted to get to this skill here, which is JA bonus, which in NA that stands for your perfect attacks. They're called just attacks on the JP servers. The perfect attacks, or the perfect attack bonus, to get that I need to have 5 points in here. And bam, we can get to the skill tree here. Now, as far as skill trees go, what you're really looking for are percentage-based bonuses when you're looking into what skills I should be taking. Skills you want to stay away from fairly early on are usually the flat attack bonus skills or the flat HP and like flat stat bonus skills. Things like S attack, HP boost. You're not going to see us taking these early on skill trees at all until you've got everything else you really need for your basic class. Now, what those things are going to depend on your class itself. Again, I can't tell you what they all are for every single class, only the ones that I know. But what you want are things going to be kind of specific to your class and how it functions. Pretty common things are like your gear. I believe on NA it's called focus, but this is basically one of the mechanics to your actual weapon in your class. You're going to want to take these for the individual classes you're playing. Now, the reason I say that these vary is if you're someone who plays Hunter, granted playing all of the weapons is very useful, maybe you don't like wired lances. So there's no point in you taking wired lance as a skill because you're never going to use it. Granted, it's only 1 point, not really that big of a deal from a perspective min-maxing or from a min-max perspective. But it might be something that might be helpful for you. You can take that and put it somewhere else. Who knows? Things you're going to be looking at are usually the focuses or your gear, as they're called on JP, and then the percentage-based damage bonuses. Things like your stances, Fury stance, just attack bonus, critical. All of these are percentage-based damage bonuses that you're usually going to want to pick up. And then after that, you're looking at survivability, if necessary for the class. Hunter is pretty commonly used as a subclass, so people will take that for things like automate half-line, which will automatically use a mate item whenever you fall below 50% HP. When you have it full points, it makes it so it's 100% activation, so it'll always happen. Whenever you fall for below 50% HP, it'll automatically use a mate item. Super, super useful for people to subclass Hunter. Very useful for survivability. Something that not a lot of people were doing on the beta, which is why you'll find some people when they look at your class combination, sometimes you'll see things like Fighter Bouncer, or things like that where people are like, I don't know what you're doing. This is mostly the reason why, is because you want your survivability, something to cover your ass whenever you're fighting stuff. Massive Hunter is pretty common and things like that. These are just survivability skills that people look into for Hunter. The reason I'm talking about Hunter specifically is because it's probably going to be the most commonly used subclass, maybe the most commonly picked main class at the beginning of the NA beta period, because people are going to want to have this leveled up so they have something to go along with a bunch of their classes. And it pretty much follows this basic ideology for every single class. We're looking at Fighter. Fighter has a couple other nuances with the half-line slayers and deadline slayers because of the way that limit break works. Again, you'll see that sort of stuff in your in the individual trees when you guys look them up. But again, we have things like stances, Brave Stance, Wise Stance. These are percentage-based damage bonuses under certain conditions. Now, a lot of these classes that have dual stances, so we'll look at Hunter first. You got Fury Stance, and then you have Guard Stance. Usually you'll get a bonus or an icon on your actual skill or on your bar that you put on that activates Guard Stance. Whenever you have Guard Stance turned off, you're automatically in Fury Stance. And that works the same way for any of the dual stance classes. So Brave Stance is the default. Whenever you have Wise Stance turned on, it's just Wise Stance. Whenever you have it turned off, it's Brave Stance. Same thing for Bouncer. If you head on down to Bouncer, you have Elemental Stance and Break Stance. Whenever Break Stance is on, it's Break Stance. Whenever it's off, it's Elemental Stance. So all these things kind of follow that sort of same line. Again, what you choose to take in your tree depends on what you're playing and kind of what the recommendations are. But the things you want to stay away from that usually people do a lot of times is stay away from the S attack bonuses, stay away from the tech attack bonuses. Even if it's so you're able to equip an item, just hold off. You'll level up. You'll get those bonuses naturally. It's not worth wasting a point on. Now, granted, after you get all of the points and all of the trees you absolutely need to get, that's when you look at things like S attack bonus. That's when commonly people will look at Hunter as a subclass, if they say subclassing it for Fighter or for Braver or Bouncer, and they'll come back and pick up S attack bonuses. That's pretty common. That'll happen. You'll see that happen afterwards, but it is the lowest on your priority because these bonuses are very, very low percentage base, so it's not really going to be helpful for you whatsoever. But that's really about it when it comes to skill trees. Just stay away from the flat damage bonuses. pick up whatever is useful for your mechanics of your class and your focus. And that's really about it. Hopefully it helps out a couple people. I apologize this video didn't go out before the beta started up. I know some people have already messed up their trees. If you have, do not freak out. Don't fret. You will more than likely get a class reset or a reset skill, or why say reset skill? A reset all skill trees ticket that will allow you to fix that. So don't fret. It'll get fixed soon enough. Anyway, guys, hopefully that's helpful. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to toss them in the comments below. And like I mentioned beforehand, I'm going to try to get a hold of those links to the individual class guide, the class guides for skill trees. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later.